Chapter 305, The Next Step. Translator, Dark Angel. Editor, Kurisu Cheng. Fei Jun had arranged this martial arts tea party from the start with two intentions. Firstly, to sift out a batch of outstanding prodigies for Luo Jifeng to recruit. Secondly, he wished to plant his own name and prestige in the hearts of the crowd. When the time came for him to step forward and personally persuade them, the identity of a black-grade high-level alchemist would naturally make those words far easier to swallow and far easier for them to nod and join. Yet now, Cheng Fei Jun had been cast into a corner and thoroughly forgotten, while Ling Han won everyone's approval and gratitude. This truly made Cheng Fei Jun boil with fury. Who told him to retreat at the most crucial moment? In the Jianghu, even if your skill was shallow, so long as you fought with all you had and died, others would still raise a thumb and declare you a true man. But if one fled without even daring to trade blows or shrank back from battle in full view of all, that was the deed most likely to draw contempt. Ling Han clasped his fists in salute, then returned with Lu Yutong and the others to the inn. Along the way, Lu Yutong and Li Si Chan were still stubborn, insisting that since Ling Han had taken first place, he ought to have demanded that restore heart pill from Cheng Fei Jun. This made Ling Han burst into loud laughter and also made him feel disdain. Just think, he, the sole and unrivaled Alchemy Emperor. How could it be that he would still need to swallow a low-quality trash pill refined by a black-grade high-level alchemist? That was truly far too great a joke. Not long after they returned to the inn, customers surged in like gathering clouds. Ju Wuju was already run ragged with busyness, and Guang Yuan and Ken Ye went to assist him as well. Later, not only did the younger generation from the 9 nations of the desolate north come forward bearing their original crystals, even quite a number of alchemists from the Star Brilliance Palace Hall arrived as soon as they heard the news. Anyone who had yet to break through to the flower-blossoming tier was but mortal, and a mortal's lifespan was no more than 100 years. So, who would not wish to live a few years longer? The greater the power these elders possessed, the more they cherished their lives, and they would pay any price so long as they could extend their years by a few more. The efficacy of 100-year ginseng and Ganoderma was not so heaven-defying as to overturn reason, but no matter what, they could still help lengthen one's lifespan a little. So it would definitely not be an issue to live another 3 or 5 years. Moreover, these items were extremely nourishing and could mend hidden injuries, which was equivalent to extending one's lifespan. Lu Yutong and Li Si Chan took on the role of housewives, standing off to one side and happily counting the origin crystals, earning Hu Nu's disdain. She secretly thought, these two silly girls, what was so enjoyable about staring at origin crystals? The correct thing to do was to cling to Ling Han instead. After a single day of business, Ling Han had amassed a terrifying sum of 100,000 origin crystals. This was wealth that would make anyone's eyes turn red with envy. It was guaranteed that even the imperial family of Rain Country could, at most, scrape together only a mere shred compared to this amount. The auction was also about to be held. In another 2 days, it would begin. And on the other side, with the aid and urging of 3 Earth-grade alchemists, Ling Han's verification as an Earth-grade alchemist would likewise be completed soon. At most, in another 5 days, the proof of his identity would be delivered. Ling Han was very satisfied and began to consider where he would go next. The Star Brilliance Palace Hall was merely a stopover for him on his way out of the desolate north, so he naturally would not linger here for long. But since he was already here, he simply chose to verify his status as an Earth-grade alchemist, ensuring that henceforth he could act as he pleased. Now that these 2 matters were nearly settled, his next destination naturally had to be moved up the schedule. The Wintermoon sect was planning to open their doors to recruit disciples? After Ling Han heard this news from others, he pondered for a moment, then decided to head to the Wintermoon sect. Firstly, he had to investigate his mother's whereabouts. Secondly, he wanted to collect some interest there. For a great sect like the Wintermoon sect, they definitely had their own herb farm, and Ling Han planned to empty that farm to enrich the space inside the Black Tower. Who asked this sect to seize his mother and injure his father? If he did not take revenge, could he even be considered human? When he had sufficient ability, he would naturally kill Ao Feng and bring this enmity to a complete end. They would go to the Winter Moon sect. However, he would have to conceal his identity. Otherwise, given that he and Feng Yan were mortal enemies, even if that spiritual infant tier elite did not kill him because he was an Earth-grade alchemist, he would still drive Ling Han out. By then, how would he seize the Winter Moon sect's herb farm? Because they had spent all their origin crystals and the martial arts tea party was already over, quite a number of young men and women did not wait for the auction to begin, but instead chose to depart immediately and head toward the Winter Moon sect. However, among those who set out, some traveled a certain distance and then actually returned. They deliberately came back to see Ling Han and told him a piece of news. On their way, they had seen a few young people coming over from the northern region. Could they be just like Bao Xinran? Ling Han thanked them, and those people set out once more on their journey. Ling Han could not help but feel rueful. He had only killed Bao Xinran because of a conflict of interests brought about by the latter, and had not considered much else. Yet he had, as a result, won the hearts of so many. Otherwise, those people had already left. Why would they deliberately come back just to tell him this news? But since they had been able to leave freely, he knew that the newcomers should be different from Bao Xinran. Otherwise, those people would have robbed and killed them rather than let them go. Could it be that they had come to participate in the auction? This was quite possible. After all, there was at least one blue-scaled demonic fruit on auction, so it was natural that those nearby would be drawn to come. At midnight, that feeling of being watched returned once again. Ling Han knew that it was definitely Luo Jifeng. It was not the first time that the old fellow had done such a thing, but with Ling Han's eye of truth, he had absolutely nowhere he could hide. However, Ling Han soon grew solemn because Luo Jifeng actually wore a veil today to conceal his face. Since he was trying to hide himself, he was clearly planning to do something wicked. Obviously, Ling Han had not given him the chance to act before, which finally caused that old man to lose patience. He had decided to move even if Ling Han was inside the inn. Ling Han hesitated. Should he immediately retreat into the Black Tower? If he withdrew into the Black Tower, then he would definitely be safe. But he still had one chance for the Black Tower to instill power into him. And he was currently at the 9th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. So once he strengthened his foundations until they could not be shaken in the slightest, he would attempt to break through to the Spiritual Ocean tier. If he still did not use this chance, that would mean wasting it completely. Most importantly, the Black Tower's installation was a process of strengthening and refining his body, which was of tremendous benefit to him. Thus, he absolutely could not miss this opportunity. Small Tower had also said that the later the chance to instill power was used, the better it would be. He was now at the 9th layer of the Gushing Spring tier. There could be no later than this. With the installation of power, he would be able to possess the cultivation of the 9th layer of the Spiritual Ocean tier. And with his monstrous battle prowess, the 9th layer of the Spiritual Ocean tier would be enough for him to fight an opponent of the Spiritual Pedestal tier. Though the higher one's cultivation, the harder it became to battle someone at an even higher level, there should still be no problem against an opponent at the 2nd or 3rd layer of the Spiritual Pedestal tier. After all, Luo Jifeng was only at the 3rd layer of the Spiritual Pedestal tier. If he fully used the mysterious 3000, he should have the chance to kill him in a single strike. After making his decision, Ling Han immediately moved in silence. He slipped out of the inn and headed toward a distant, shadowed place. With Luo Jifeng's senses and divine sense as a Spiritual Pedestal tier cultivator, he naturally discovered Ling Han's departure in an instant. The old man could not help but be slightly stunned. How could there be such coincidence? He had just resolved to kill Ling Han even if it meant exposing himself, and now this brat actually left the inn alone, creating an opportunity for him? Strange. However, there was no way he could resist such temptation. In his eyes, there was no possibility that someone merely at the 1st layer of the Gushing Spring tier could ever pose a threat to him. The old man sprang forward and flew after Ling Han, closely tailing him. He planned to catch up in a more remote place and kill him. Firstly, this would settle a problem for Cheng Fei-jun, and secondly, he still had to draw out the strange fire. Otherwise, there was no possibility that Cheng Fei-jun could take over the position of leader in the Star Brilliance Palace Hall. After only a little over 10 minutes, Ling Han suddenly stopped. It was precisely the plaza that had hosted the martial arts tea party the day before. A large number of sunshades still had not been dismantled, and the surroundings were dark on every side, as if it were a ghost town. This was indeed a fine place to commit murder. It was exceedingly spacious. Chapter 306, Battling the Spiritual Pedestal. Tier translator Dargater Kurisu. Old man, come on out. You've followed me for so long. You should come out to take a breath of fresh air, Ling Han said, turning around. Luo Jifeng continued to conceal himself and did not step forth at the first moment. He believed Ling Han was merely feigning. How could a brat at the first layer of the gushing spring tier possibly sense his trail? So you can be shameless as long as there's a cloth covering your face? Ling Han snorted. Luo Jifeng was instantly livid, and at the same time, he understood that Ling Han had indeed discovered him. He strode out and demanded, "Brat, how did you discover me?" "I guessed," Ling Han replied plainly. "I vaguely felt that there was a dung beetle behind me, and thinking it through, someone who would skulk behind another in the middle of the night like this must be a shameful old wretch." Luo Jifeng was driven to fury by his vicious tongue and roared, "How dare you?" "Hey, I am usually very daring," Ling Han smiled. Luo Jifeng immediately steadied his breath. A master of the spiritual pedestal tier naturally could not lose his composure like this. He clasped his hands behind his back and said, "Brat, you probably don't know my cultivation level yet, right? The spiritual pedestal tier." He did not wait for Ling Han to guess and simply announced it himself. "I heard you even dared to kill a man at the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. This has likely made you smug and conceited, so you think I'm the same. Right? You're wrong. Wrong. Whether it is the spiritual pedestal or the spiritual ocean tier, there's no way you can distinguish the difference in cultivation levels, and this is precisely going to be the reason for your death. There are some people you can't offend, and once you do, your only fate is death." Ling Han threw back his head and laughed. "So it's an old wretch of the spiritual pedestal tier. Sorry I failed to recognize you. I truly am quite curious. Cheng Fei-jun can actually command an old wretch like you. From the look of it, you've not much to be proud of." "Nonsense. Cheng Fei-jun is the one who must obey my commands." Luo Jifeng snapped at once, but the moment the words left his mouth, his body could not help but stiffen, and he barked sharply. "Damn you. You actually dared to trick me with words." Ling Han spread his hands and said, "You're here to kill me anyway. Moreover, a clash between the spiritual pedestal tier and the gushing spring tier would certainly be a one-sided crushing. I'm someone who is definitely going to die. So what if I know a few secrets? Old wretch, let me ask you, what party are you truly from?" Luo Jifeng was momentarily dazed by Ling Han's words. Those first lines were clearly meant to be his, yet why had they come from Ling Han's mouth? Though it was fact, it still made him feel incomparably uncomfortable. A man who knew full well he was going to die could still remain so calm? Yet, when he heard Ling Han's last few sentences, the old man was enraged once more. This brat still dared to call him an old wretch? "What is the point for a dead man to know so much?" he asked coldly. Being called old wretch again and again made him feel he couldn't bear to immediately kill Ling Han. He wanted to play with the boy for a while, then kill him slowly. Ling Han laughed. "A wretch will be a wretch, never listens to good words, only brute force works." "Damn you," Luo Jifeng snorted furiously. He truly could not endure being insulted as old wretch time after time, so he planned to first subdue this brat, then slowly torment him. At the same time, retrieving the strange fire was quite a troublesome matter. Cheng Fei-jun needed to be present as well, so he had best first seize Ling Han. "Small tower," Ling Han said softly. In that instant, a terrifying power surged from his dantian and raced through his entire body. First layer of the spiritual ocean tier, second layer, third layer. His cultivation shot upward in a violent spike, and in a brief moment, it reached the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. Yi! Luo Jifeng was just about to move when he abruptly halted all motion, crying out in utter shock. Impossible. Impossible. How can your aura instantly soar to the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier? From the first layer of the gushing spring tier to the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier. That was practically breaking through 2 major tiers, shocking to the point of horror. Who could possibly accept this? What is the point for a dead man to know so much? Ling Han asked. This was exactly what Luo Jifeng had thrown back at him earlier. Luo Jifeng had already regained his senses from that overwhelming astonishment. He said, "So what if you are at the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier? There is still a gap of a major tier, and suppressing you would be as easy as crushing an ant for me. I absolutely do not believe that in this tiny place like the desolate north, there could be a 17-year-old at the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier who at the same time is also an earth-grade alchemist. You must have taken some kind of alchemical pill that temporarily raised your cultivation. You would only possess strength through this kind of upgrade. It is impossible for your comprehension of martial arts to have risen as well. At most, you could only display battle prowess of the 3rd or 4th layer. In front of me, such battle prowess is trash," he said with disdain. Ling Han's right hand shifted, and a sword appeared from nothingness. This was no ordinary iron blade, but the demon birth sword. Today, he was absolutely not going to spare Luo Jifeng. This, what kind of spirit tool is this? Luo Jifeng's expression changed dramatically. Even though the martial intent within the demon birth sword had not been restored, a level 10 spirit tool was still a level 10 spirit tool. With merely one glance at the patterns carved upon the sword's body, a powerful despair surged up, as if one were facing an ultimate elite standing at the very apex of strength. Level 10 spirit tool, demon birth sword, Ling Han said evenly. This time, he did not conceal it. Level 10 spirit tool, level 10 spirit tool, Luo Jifeng muttered, and fierce greed instantly flooded his face. I understand. Your confidence rests on this demon birth sword. Ha ha ha! A level 10 spirit tool is indeed mighty, but you have no way to activate the martial intent within it, so at most it can threaten me only with its sharpness. I should thank you for gifting me such an ultimate treasure. Ha ha! Only I am worthy to possess this spirit tool. Is that so? Ling Han extended his left hand, and with a single thought, weng, 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 veins appeared upon his hand, gleaming with a multicolored radiance. Pooh! Luo Jifeng instantly choked. This was martial intent, the genuine thing. How could this be? How could this be? He was driven instantly mad. If one used an alchemical pill to forcibly raise cultivation, that would only be a surge of strength. It was absolutely impossible for martial arts cultivation to rise along with it. Could it be that Ling Han truly stood in the spiritual ocean tier, yet had forcibly suppressed his cultivation before? Yet a 17-year-old spiritual ocean tier martial artist who was also an earth-grade alchemist. No matter how he looked at it, it was nonsense. How could such a monster exist in this world? No matter how he dared to ponder, he could never imagine that Ling Han's soul had once belonged to an ultimate heaven-tier elite, the Alchemy Emperor. Thus, not only an earth-grade alchemist, he could even instantly become a heaven-grade alchemist. And so long as there was sufficient power, with the divine sense of the heaven tier, how could it be that he could not form martial intent? Ling Han lightly shook the demon birth sword. Weng, the precious sword shone, and 2 patterns released a faint glow. This signified that he had revived a portion of the martial intent within the demon birth sword. Even if it was only a small portion, how fearsome was a level 10 spirit tool? A terrifying might rolled out, and Luo Jifeng's heart trembled violently. His legs went weak to the point he nearly dropped to his knees on the ground. Previously, merely the decree of a spiritual infant tier elite had been enough to render Fuyuan Sheng and the other 2 spiritual pedestal tier elites capable only of resisting, unable to move. A level 10 spirit tool was naturally even more fearsome. Unfortunately, Ling Han could only activate 2 patterns after all. Moreover, they glimmered only faintly, so the martial intent released was too limited. As a result, Luo Jifeng still managed to retain a large portion of his battle prowess. I shall accept such a precious sword as my own. Luo Jifeng was astonished, yet at the same time even more thrilled.